Welcome to the Mindbodygreen podcast. Today, I want to tell you a story about dirt, bacteria, and how the cleanest kids might actually be the sickest. And it all started with a mystery hidden in plain sight on America's farms. Picture this. You're driving through rural Pennsylvania at dawn, and the mist is still lifting off the fields. You pass a farmhouse where an Amish family is already deep into their morning routine. The father's leading a team of Belgian draft horses out to the fields. No tractors, no GPS, just the ancient rhythm of human and animals working together. Meanwhile, his wife is hanging the laundry in a line that stretches between massive oak trees, each piece snapping in the morning breeze. And the children? They're everywhere. Barefoot kids, chasing chickens, climbing into haylofts, helping milk cows by hand into metal pails. At breakfast, they'll drink that warm, unpasteurized milk, eat eggs collected minutes ago from nests they know by heart, and share thick slabs of bread baked in a wood-fired oven. Now, if you're like most modern parents watching this scene, you might feel your anxiety spike. Where are the baby gates, the hand sanitizer, the organic, triple-washed, individually packaged produce? These kids are literally rolling around in barn dust, putting their hands in their mouths after petting animals, drinking milk that never saw the inside of a processing plant. By all modern standards, shouldn't they be constantly sick? Life in this community has barely changed since the 1800s, where children grew up without electricity, without processed foods, without sterile environments. It's a world where a 6-year-old helps with farm chores, feeding calves, collecting eggs, spreading fresh straw in animal stalls, and yes, getting thoroughly covered in what we politely call farm dust. Here's the plot twist that stunned researchers. Those quote-unquote dirty farm kids actually may be the healthiest children in America when it comes to allergies and asthma. So let's talk about what we're dealing with here. Allergic diseases, asthma, eczema, hay fever have become childhood epidemics. We're talking about conditions that can turn a spring day into a nightmare of wheezing and itching and sneezing. And despite all our medical advances, we've been terrible at preventing them. We can manage symptoms, sure, but stop them from starting? We've been stumped. Then, researchers started noticing something incredible. In one landmark study, they compared children under 1 year old, those exposed to farm life versus their suburban counterparts. The results were jaw-dropping. Asthma rates dropped from 11% to just 1%. Hay fever plummeted from 13% to 3%. And sensitivity to allergens, the underlying trigger for all these problems, fell from 29% to only 12%. Think about that for a second. We're not talking about a slight improvement. We're talking about kids being 10 times less likely to develop asthma just because they grew up around cows and hay. Scientists couldn't let this mystery go unsolved. They started analyzing everything: the air, the dust, the milk, the microbes. And what they found was fascinating. It came down to 3 seemingly simple things that are everyday reality for Amish children: contact with cows, exposure to straw, and drinking raw farm milk. Think about what this looks like in practice. Picture 7-year-old Sarah, whose daily chores include feeding the family's dairy cows. She knows each cow by name: Bessie, Clara, Martha, and she's not wearing gloves when she leads them from pasture to barn. The straw she's walking on has been there for weeks, housing countless microorganisms. And when she's thirsty, she might drink a glass of milk that was freshly produced just a few minutes ago. For an Amish child, this isn't exotic or unusual. It's called Tuesday. But those 3 exposures could reproduce most of the asthma protection seen on farms. But here's where it gets really interesting. When researchers collected dust from Amish farmhouses, and I mean the actual dust from wooden floors that have never known a Swiffer, and from windowsills that catch the breeze carrying pollen and animal dander, they discovered something remarkable. This wasn't the sterile dust of modern homes, made up mostly of dead skin cells and synthetic fibers. Farm dust was teeming with diverse bacteria and fungi, a whole invisible ecosystem that included microbes from the barn, the fields, the animals, even the homemade bread rising in the kitchen. It was like each particle contained a library of biological information. And that diversity was directly linked to protection against asthma. Even in non-farm homes, if a child's indoor dust somehow resembled farm dust microbiologically, their asthma risks dropped dramatically. It was as if the bacteria were offering a protective shield that had nothing to do with the actual pitchforks and bonnets, just the invisible microbial community that thrived in that environment. This discovery led to one of those beautiful moments when nature inspires innovation. If farm microbes were protective, could scientists recreate that protection in a lab? Enter bacterial lysates, which sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Think of them as freeze-dried bacteria, processed and standardized for safety. The star of the show is something called OM-85, made from 21 different bacterial strains that naturally live in our airways. Here's what's remarkable. OM-85 has been used by over 100 million people worldwide to prevent respiratory infections in children. You heard that right, 100 million, and it has a stellar safety record. Clinical studies show it can decrease wheezing episodes and delay serious respiratory illnesses in at-risk kids. But the real magic happened when researchers tested it in mouse models. They delivered OM-85 directly into the airways and watched what would happen to the immune system. The results were like watching a perfectly choreographed dance. Inflammation calmed down, immune cells became more tolerant, and the whole system seemed to learn how to respond appropriately to threats instead of overreacting to harmless substances. The protection was so strong that it could even be transferred from one mouse to another, as if the beneficial effects had become part of their biology. What fascinates me most about this research is how it connects the wisdom of communities like the Amish, who have been living this way for centuries with cutting-edge science. For the Amish, childhood isn't about playdates and screen time. It's about learning to milk cows before you can ride a bike, spending summer evenings catching fireflies in pastures dotted with grazing animals, falling asleep to the sound of barn owls, and waking up to the roosters. Their children grow up in a world where the boundaries between indoors and outdoors, human and animal, clean and dirty, are beautifully blurred. A typical Amish home doesn't have sealed windows and central air filtering systems. Instead, the doors are open. The breezes carry scents from the barn and garden alike, and children track in the mud, hay, and yes, microbes on a daily basis. For thousands of years, this was normal human childhood. Our immune systems evolved expecting that exposure, expecting to encounter diverse microbes, to learn from them, to develop alongside them. But in just a few generations, we've sanitized ourselves into a corner. Don't get me wrong, I am not suggesting we abandon hygiene or go back to dying from preventable infections. And I have a history of parasites, so I will not be partaking in the raw milk trend that is all over social media. Not for me. But maybe, just maybe, we've swung too far in the other direction. The farm dust story shows us that some bacteria aren't just harmless, they are essential partners in training our immune systems. Without them, our bodies become like overprotective parents, panicking at every little thing that enters our airways. Of course, this field is still full of mysteries. Which specific microbes are doing the heavy lifting? Could we give these protective bacteria to pregnant mothers and pass the benefits to their babies? And could this approach work for other allergic diseases beyond asthma, like food allergies or eczema? These aren't just academic questions. With childhood allergies on the rise globally, finding answers could transform millions of lives. So what does this mean for you and your family? It means that the next time you see your kid playing in the dirt, maybe don't rush for the wipes quite so fast. When you drink that fermented kefir, walk barefoot in nature, or simply take a deep breath of outdoor air, you're connecting with an ancient partnership between humans and microbes. Your body is home to trillions of bacteria that are working around the clock to keep you healthy. They're training your immune system, protecting your gut, and yes, possibly preventing allergies and asthma. We may never recreate the exact conditions of an Amish farm in modern life, but we can learn from what those environments teach us. That health isn't just about what we avoid, it's also about what we embrace. You know, there's something beautifully ironic about this whole story. We spend billions trying to optimize our health, but sometimes the most profound medicine has been right under our noses, or in this case, right under our feet, this whole time. If this research made you see dirt a little differently, I'd love to hear about it. Share this episode with someone who might appreciate the science behind the mess. Leave us a review. It genuinely helps more people discover these types of stories, and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be well.